Hey moms, it's Nakimi. Welcome to the channel and space for single moms navigating motherhood. And as always, we do not bash the baby daddies because, well, we are here now. So yesterday I made a video talking about single mothers starting all over. And in that video, I basically covered, if you are a single mom and you have thought about and or you are thinking about moving to a different city or a different state, just for a fresh start, and you may have little to no support, I really dropped some nuggets in that video. And so I highly encourage you to go back and watch it if you haven't watched it already. That video brings me to this video, jobs for single moms. I know all too well how hard it is when you really don't have a lot of support for the day-to-day responsibilities. So, you may not have anyone to go pick up your kids from school, or, whenever they're sick, you have to take off from work to go get them and take them to the doctor. You are the one that is taking off of work to enroll them in school, and the list goes on. So these are some jobs that I find to be single mom and or working mom friendly. The first job is daycare. So if your babies are in daycare, you may want to think about working at that daycare or finding a job at a daycare and enrolling your kids there. And this type of job, I do know, doesn't pay very much. So it may be ideal for a mom that is on subsidized programs. Okay. You may be getting assistance with your housing and food. Okay. The best thing about working at a daycare that your children attend is that you're there to watch over your babies. And so if you like, babies and toddlers and you like to teach, that may be a good fit for you. So you may want to look into that. Also, the public school district. Like if your children are attending a public school, you may want to look at applying within that district. If you can land a job at their school, even better. And the best thing about working for the school district is you are off when your kids are out of school. So that kind of eliminates the who's going to watch them while they're on spring break or Christmas break and I still have to work. Plus growing up, I would see the kids of parents that worked for the same school, they tend to perform a little better. They were a little bit more obedient. So that may be something that you want to look at. And you don't have to be a teacher. There are different jobs within the school district that you can actually do. You can do community outreach. So if you've been thinking about getting into a nonprofit organization, that sector, that may be a way that you can establish your foothold in that industry. So definitely daycare and school districts would be something that is single parent or working mom friendly. The next one is becoming a nanny. If you like the stay-at-home things, the cooking, the cleaning, but you're just not a stay-at-home mom, you may want to look into becoming a nanny. There are hiring agencies out there for nannies. Interview with the family. Of course, they do a background check. And some of those families may not need you full time. And then I've also heard that some of them don't mind if you bring your children with you. So that may be something that you look into. Another thing is don't count out your local city or government jobs or state jobs, like your state's DHS. Even federal jobs. I know that they just had an entire lockdown and massive layoffs, but when the dust settles, A lot of those jobs are still going to be work from home, and working for the government, you already know you get good benefits, 401k, pension, things of that nature. And speaking of work from home, of course, work from home is always a good option. The only thing now, like with work from home positions, the game has changed so much because now a lot of the employers are requiring the employees to come into the office a couple of times a week. And then it really depends on your experience and your educational background, what type of job you'll land working from home. But there are work from home jobs out there. I know some of the cruise ships are hiring. You have like American Express, the credit card companies are also hiring because they're global. So, though they have work from home positions as well. A lot of the banks have work from home positions. I know Carnival Cruise Ship. The only thing with that, because I had looked into doing it at one point, is I think they start you off at like $10 an hour because it's commission. So as they give you leads to people that have already booked a cruise, and you're trying to be their personal agent and upsell them all of this type of stuff. But I did my research. I got on YouTube and I looked at people that had did it, and when I saw $10 an hour, I was like, no, thank you. But you may be in a position that you can take that, especially if you're like a salesy person and it's work from home. So if you're a salesy person and you're a go-getter like that, go for it. Definitely go for it. Also, like a family-owned business, like a small business, if you can find one of those. Because usually companies that are family-owned and operated and they're still relatively small, they are more family-orientated. They kind of understand what it means to be a working parent. So they tend to be a little bit more lenient when it comes to you taking off time for your kids or an emergency comes up. The healthcare industry. So when we think of healthcare, we're thinking CNA, nursing, but there are a lot of other career paths that you can take with the healthcare industry where you can make just the same amount of money as nurses and or more. They have healthcare administration if you want to be on the business side of things. Then you have some of the jobs that are a little bit more introvert friendly. So you have like MRI techs, radiology techs. You have registered behavioral technicians, mental health technicians. And then you have sterile processing technicians. And, they basically are sterilizing the equipment and instruments, that the surgeons use for surgery. So they're making sure that everything is sterile. So if I were you, I would check it out at your local community college and or go online and Google some healthcare trade schools near you. I don't want to say trade schools, but healthcare schools near you. Because a lot of the times they're offering the majority of the course online, and then your lab, of course, has to be done in person. And you may have to get some lab hours at the hospital, which, you're not going to be paid. So you'll definitely want to kind of have something lined up because you've got to work those shifts. Now, another one is EMT, the first responders. Typically, you can do a 24 on, maybe 48 hour off, or a 3x12, so 3-day, 12-hour shifts. So you're off 4 days a week. That would give you time enough to work on your own endeavor. And of course, that would probably be more suited for someone that already has a village, because 12-hour shifts, you would definitely have to have someone to watch your children. paramedics, things like that you may want to look into. Another one is, if you are a person that has an outgoing personality and you're a really fun, loving person, you may want to try applying at a lot of the high-end restaurants to be a waitress, maybe even bartending, because they get tips. And some of these restaurants have that nightclub vibe to them. So they're looking for the hot young girls. So if you have the aesthetics or you have the confidence, you may want to look into that. And then, there are some people that, you just don't really have a career, an ideal career. Like there's not really any one thing, one job that you want to do for the rest of your life. And that's okay. You may be more suited for the odd end jobs, like multiple little things that you do here and there. So multiple streams of income. So like becoming a maid, housekeeping. And don't sleep on housekeeping. Like what the jobs that I'm mentioning is not based off of, I just think you need to get the bottom of the barrel. I just want to make that very clear, because a lot of these housekeeping jobs, they're making good money. Plus, some of those homeowners, they leave tips. So that may be something that you could just do. Go clean a couple of houses, or apartment complexes, like subcontract you. If you have cleaning experience, you can go and clean those apartments and they'll pay you, decent money too for 1 day of work. That may be an extra $200 or $300, $400 or $500 in your pocket for the day. Plus, if you have your own side hustle going on, I've spoken before about having something for yourself as a single mom. So maybe you bake and sell cookies or cupcakes or chocolate covered strawberries or cheesecake or whatever dessert. Maybe you do t-shirts. Maybe you do jewelry. I don't know. But whatever your side hustle is, you could also be doing that as well. And then, maybe you want to work at a brunch spot that's really hot on the weekends. So maybe you work 2 days out of the week there. Tips, So that may be an option for you as well, especially if you don't really have a one set career. That's not really your thing, is to sit down and just do the same old job. It's too mundane for you. You want to, break it up. That's not really your personality. Yep. And then the last one is my favorite, the beauty industry. I think it is good for women all up. I just really feel like every woman, even if it's just for a year, should work in the beauty industry. It's just such a cute industry. I love it. And it keeps you feminine. And there's so many different career paths that you could take. Like you don't have to become a licensed cosmetologist or an esthetician. You could be a salon manager, work the front desk part-time. And usually the employees, like the salon manager or front desk staff, they'll either get a free service or a pretty hefty discount. Can you imagine that, getting your hair done for free? You just got to pick your stylist that you want, So if you are a person that really likes to manage people and you are all about, you're passionate about making women beautiful, because you don't have to have a license to have those qualities in you, right? Especially if you have daughters and you're already dressing them up and doing their hair every day, then you already kind of know that you want to make things cutesy. The beauty industry is a good industry to get into. Now they typically don't have like a 401k and benefits and health insurance and stuff like that. But, it does have wiggle room. There's flexibility in your scheduling. And you may get in it Like, say, for instance, you just started to work at a salon. You may get in it and decide, geez, I want to learn how to do hair. I see how much money they're making. I want to do that. And you may go back and get your cosmetology license. You know, for my women of color, we know that like the braiding industry is major. And these sister locks, micro locks, and they use that interlock method. Oh, those are taking off. And I'm going to tell you something. Those ladies are charging $1,000+ a pop. Now, they are on their feet for 12 hours, you know, or you'll see it where they'll break the appointment up. It's a 2-day appointment. But I mean, still, you know, if you did one a day, 3 days out of the week, that's $3,000 just that week. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, of course. Nothing does. But, you know, there's money to be made there. You know. But I'll say this, and I wish that someone had given me this knowledge back then. Whatever career path you choose or whatever job you're on, make sure that it's going to put you in a position to be in certain circles. Like, really think about the people that you want to connect with, that you want to network with. So what is your end goal? What's the end game for you, right? Is it to open up your own business one day? You know, is it to eventually go into corporate America and have some director position? You know, what exactly is your end game? But whatever job you get onto, don't underestimate asking the leader to be your mentor. You'd be surprised and honored how that makes people feel. That what that says is, I see what you're doing. I admire what you're doing, the way that you're doing it, and I want to know what's your secret. Even if that's not totally how you feel, right? But people like that. When you ask them to be, you know, your mentor, they start getting on the good foot, like, well, sure. You know, and it keeps them going. And it's just a subtle reminder to them, you know, that they are doing a good job. You know, if you're thinking about, well, maybe I will go be a salon manager. That sounds pretty cool. Step into a salon, maybe ask for the owner and just ask her, hey, you know, I'm really thinking about stepping, you know, into this industry. Is it possible for me to shadow you for a day? And just really see how they do it. All they can tell you is no, and you just move on to the next. Someone's going to say yes because someone's going to feel honored. You know, the thing about older people, especially those that have been running their businesses for a while, they can appreciate the newer generation coming to them saying, I want to learn from you. I don't think that I know it all. I want to learn from you. And it may sound like it is cocky or entitled or whatever, but it really isn't, because the older you get, if you have acquired wisdom, you want to share it, and you want to know that people see you and your hard work, you know. So it's just a way to get, you know, to network. And never underestimate the power of knowing somebody, because it's not always what you know, it's who you know. You know, I knew people in corporate America that, you know, they were in positions and they would tell me, they were like, half of these people that were hired didn't, you know, they were hired outside of the company, had no clue about what they were doing. They got on because their friends put them on. Meanwhile, the person that was telling me that, they worked their way from the ground up, you know. So a lot of it is who you know and not what you know. You know, I just had a client tell me she's been with her company for 20-something years, and she just moved over to a different position, like a senior project management position, and she's going to be working directly with the I forget the title. It's not the CEO, but it's on up there. And she said, I've never had to interview. Her current boss has always took her with him because she was just that good. So never underestimate the power of networking and getting yourself into those circles, and be humble enough to say, hey, I want to know what you do. Will you be my mentor? Never be afraid to just ask, can I shadow you for the day? You just never know. People, that's different, right? Because when everybody else is going right, you got to go left, because going left is where the opportunity is. Yeah. So, but that is all I wanted to share today, guys. If you are or you know of a job that may be single mom or working mom friendly, drop a comment, for the ones that may be looking. Yeah, because, back then we didn't have this social media. So I'm so happy that, the opportunity is here now. So let's use social media wisely. Drop those comments. Let us know of any other opportunities that you can think of that may be, single mom friendly. Okay. As always, to my single moms, you got this, mamas. I love you guys. Till next time. Bye.